I'm not under the impression that I'm sick. I'm not under the impression that my body is broken. I do not feel like my body has let me down. Quite the opposite. I feel that this is exactly what needed to happen to nudge me back into the right direction. And if this is what it takes for me to maintain that connection with myself, fuck it, I'm gonna do it every year. Like, it was worth it. Healing is not about the absence of symptoms. Healing is really about understanding the messages of the body and understanding the messages of the signs and symptoms if they arise, and then using that as a tool to explore deeper authenticity and to align your life with that truth if an alignment is necessary. So, and for me, this is how I got into this mess, and this is what I wanted to share with you. Hi everyone, my name is Robin. Thank you for tuning in today. Today we're going to do story time. This is an unscripted video. I've got a few things that I want to share, but it's a lot more off the cuff and, just doing it as I go along. So I last week had a significant health scare, and it was bad enough that I could have actually died from it. And I would like to share my whole story, how it came about, how, as a teaching opportunity, how I deal with pain, signs and symptoms, what the hospital experience was like, how I deal with the diagnosis, and all those kinds of things. So I hope that you'll find this useful. Might be a bit of a longer video, so you might want to get a cup of tea, or you can listen to this while you're driving or something. Okay, so I became a chiropractor, dedicating my life to health. It was something that I was really interested in. I believe that I do a lot of things that you would consider positive health measures, active healthy behaviors. Before I was a chiropractor, I was mainly sedentary. So, I started exercising. I never smoked. I don't drink alcohol anymore. Years ago, I stopped eating sugar. I usually run about 20 kilometers a week, which is not a lot. I like rock climbing as well. So there's a lot of things in there that where you would think you would kind of stack the odds in your favor in terms of unexpected health issues. But a couple of weeks ago, I started getting some weird pain in my leg. And at that point, I thought, oh my God, you idiot, you tore your calf running again. Now you got to rest. And then 2 weeks ago, I also started getting some weird problems with my diaphragm where I couldn't really take a full breath, couldn't sleep in many positions, sometimes had to really prop myself up when I was in bed as well. And at that point, I had no reason to believe that it was anything other than a severe musculoskeletal issue. Got adjusted as well, felt usually a lot better after treatment, but something wasn't quite right. So I had a normal shift on Saturday. Saturday night, my leg was not quite right. It was probably, in terms of level of pain and concern, maybe about an 8 out of 10, something like that. And I knew, okay, this isn't normal. That's not just a calf tear. Sunday, perfectly normal Sunday. Watched a couple of movies, did my looking after the house and things like that you do as an adult. And then on Monday, I didn't really get good sleep. Really had to sit up pretty much upright the whole night. Monday morning, things weren't great. My chest was contracting quite a bit, even when I was just walking around. Leg pain was quite bad, and I had already made the decision on Sunday. You're just going to call the GP, and you're going to get checked out. They're going to tell you everything is fine, so at least you're going to have the peace of mind. So I went to the GP. GP is 250 meters from my house. Took me 10 minutes to get there because I was either out of breath or because my leg wasn't working. And she assessed me. Phenomenal doctor. Never met her before. I don't really have a regular GP because I don't have anything that's wrong with me usually. Haven't taken a Panadol in 20 years. There wasn't really anything that needed biomedical intervention. She assessed me, very experienced practitioner, highly qualified practitioner, amazing the way she interacted with me as well. I immediately felt comfortable with her. So she did her assessment, and she just told me with a lot of certainty, so you have deep vein thrombosis in your right leg, and you do have a pulmonary embolism. and what we're going to do is we're going to call you an ambulance and you're going to go to hospital. And I was a bit surprised because I didn't think that that's how my Monday was going to go. I had laundry ready to do at home. My computer was still on. I had bone broth still going in the slow cooker. So there was a lot of things. So I just thought, I'm just going to go to the GP and come back. And next thing I know, I'm in the ambulance. And that was a big surprise, not necessarily the outcome that I wanted, but the way everything went down, it was clear, with her certainty and with her experience, this is the right thing to do. And I felt that I was in good hands, and I just accepted that as my fate at that point. And everything she said made complete sense. My pathophysiology as a chiropractor is okay. All of these things I do have to be able to diagnose if somebody comes in as well, but I do not see it as frequently as a medical doctor would. And sometimes if it's happening to yourself, because I've never really had anything seriously wrong with me, it takes a while for the penny to drop, and I'm a bit of a slow learner as well, apparently. Ambulance came, had the most gorgeous, wonderful young women, the ambulance driver and the other paramedic as well. One of the women was the second day at work. They just took care of me so beautifully, and they drove me to hospital, handed me over to emergency, and then in emergency things started to get a little bit more serious. Everybody's completely masked up in the hazmat suits as well. It's very hard to hear what's going on because there's noise, and then one person is trying to help you get undressed, the other person is taking your history. The other person was cannulating me to put the thing in the arm. Then blood thinners injected into my stomach straight away. There's not a lot of, hey, how do you feel about this procedure and what do you think we should do? It's just you're very at the mercy of what is being done to you, and that's the way it's supposed to be in emergency. Their job is to save your life, and they did phenomenally well because I'm here able to tell you that story. One of the doctors was a little bit weird energy when he was taking the history. He's taking my weight as well, and I weighed in at the doctor at 56 kilograms that day. I've always been on the lighter side. That's suitable as a climber as well, and at the moment I just haven't done any strength training. I've lost a lot of muscle. In the last few weeks I was just not excited about that full stomach feeling after a meal, just because it would bring on those chest contractions that make it difficult for me to breathe. And he goes, oh my God, 60 kilograms. My leg is 56 kilograms. I was like, okay, that's great. And he goes, oh my God, my girlfriend is 56 kilograms. I was like, well, mate, I'm not your girlfriend. I'm just here because of something else. And the ambulance women, they already said, they felt energetically the whole thing was a bit off, and then I said, no, look, he's a rock climber and whatever. And I didn't have my wits about me at that point, so I couldn't ask the doctor, let's call him the comedian, or Dr. C, or the C, why not, let's call him the C. I didn't really have my wits about me to ask him, how often does he weigh his girlfriend, or how much does his wife weigh, or something like that. I didn't really have that banter going with him. Anyway, the rest of the day, chest x-ray, contrast, chest CT. They had to do it twice because the machine wasn't quite working. And so there was a lot of emergency procedures, and then they basically just wheel you back into that room. Every now and then somebody pops their head in and looks at your vitals. But it's a very isolated, bizarre experience. And at that point, you don't really know what's going on. You're going off diagnosis and just doing what's protocol in order to stabilize my condition. And I was not in severe pain. There was pain on deep breaths, but that was fully coherent as well. There was no other incident that made this more difficult. So, and then, I don't know, a couple of hours later, doctor comes back, the comedian, Dr. C, the C. So the C goes, oh, okay, so we've done your chest CT, and we found blood clots on both sides of your lung. I was like, fuck. And he was like, well, yeah, that's the appropriate response for news like that. And then it was very difficult for me to get information. Nobody really talks to you. This is what's going to happen in the next couple of hours. This is what we're looking for. This is what we're going to do. This is what's going to happen tomorrow. None of that. And you really have to press for the information as well. And at this point, I was already wheeled out on the hallway, and I had my wristband on, and they ask you for your name. They're very nice, but at the end of the day, I was just sitting there next to the bathrooms, waiting for either to die or for my fate to be relayed back to me. And so at this point I thought, okay, so it's not that serious. And I asked the sea, okay, at this point I'm obviously not gonna die in the next hour. And the sea goes, well, I can't guarantee that. So it's just like, at this point, I'm obviously very concerned. I do not know what's going on. And as much as I appreciate the banter, that I don't think was particularly appropriate. But overall, the hospital experience was quite positive. So Dr. C, maybe brush up on your bedside manner a little bit. I would appreciate that. The rest of the day was reasonably pleasant. It became more clear that for now I was just going to get blood thinners and I was going to be in observation. And I got my own room at that point. It was fantastic. After that night, that was Monday, on Tuesday, I still had more tests to do. So on Tuesday we did, because they have to rule out cancer as well, so we did another abdominal CT with contrast, drinking contrast, and the intravenous contrast. And that was a very overwhelming experience. I'm not the biggest fan of medical procedures as it is. I can't really do needles. I'm total wussy about all that kind of stuff. Like I said, I haven't really taken medication in my adult life as well. And that contrast CT was rough. On a good day, if you've ever had that done, you're going into this giant tube, and on a good day it might feel like you're going down a water slide or something like that. On a bad day, and I wasn't really having a good day at that point because I was still in shock and trying to deal with everything, more felt like getting chucked down a massive garbage chute into the garbage disposal, like you see that in movies or something. And the worst part of it was the intravenous contrast. And it's a bizarre sensation that when that fluid first enters your arm, it just gets incredibly cold. It felt a lot like a kiss of death, and my soul was slowly leaving my body. Then you get that really severe metallic taste in your mouth, whole spine starts tingling, and then it feels like you're involuntarily losing control of your bowel and your bladder as well. And this, for me, was just as if every part of my spine, every part of my nervous system was getting poisoned. That was the association that I had with it. And I had to sit up after I got out of it, and especially because the day before, the machine wasn't working right. So they had to do the chest CT twice and the contrast twice. So now I had 3 CT scans, full abdominal scan, chest CT, 3 times with intravenous contrast as well. And at that point, I was just very overwhelmed, and I broke down, and I was weeping and crying. And I thought, if I get out of this and then I get some other complication because of the radiation or because of the contrast or something, that was just not an outcome that I was looking forward to. So it was difficult to deal with. I was just trying to work through the fear at that point. I didn't really have pain while I was in the hospital. I did have pain the weeks prior when I was trying to lay down flat on my back and my chest was just contracting. There was just very specific positions I could get in for me to get comfortable. And it's different paradigms how to deal with pain. For me, this was definitely an incentive for me to really try to figure out what was going on. The last couple of months were a lot about me just really trying to switch off and disconnect from what's happening in my day-to-day life, and the pain was definitely calling for my attention. It was not something that could be switched off in any kind of way. It kept me awake at night, and there was no way for me to form a coherent thought or to drift off or to pretend that it was not happening. So I tried to, I don't know how you want to call it, talk to the pain, really trying to listen to my body and feel what kind of messages are coming through there. And that takes a lot of practice, and I haven't done that in a while because I hadn't had to deal with physical pain in so long. And so I wasn't really getting good messages, only some fragmented phrases such as one breath at a time, make every breath count. And that didn't make a lot of sense to me at the time. But then there's those moments when it hits you, when you really understand what your body is trying to tell you. And that's when my heart opened and I started crying while I was in bed as well. And I realized I hadn't been making my breath count. I was just really existing and hoping for things to get better. I told the story, how everything came about, but I just wanted to share that real quick. So then the next 2 nights in hospital, the staff was great, but at that point I got moved to the ward with many beds, and in that station it's a lot like an airport or a busy hotel lobby or an open office. There's 4 nurses, they're all talking to each other all night long. There's the phone going all night. There's just a normal station noise of patients leaving and patients coming out. Then, you've got usually everybody in the hospital is about 127 years old, and then everybody's either, hip fracture or breathing problems or dying in some other horrible way. And so we had one guy who couldn't work the remote to call for the nurse. So every 15 minutes he would kind of scream, "Nurse, nurse, nurse." And what are you supposed to do if you're 120 years old? It's a foreign environment. You don't really know what's happening, and that's the only way you can get attention. But it's difficult to sleep if you've got somebody doing that after 15 minutes. Another one, severely asthmatic, and was breathing and coughing so loudly throughout the entire night. I was just not able to get any rest. So I did have my headphones, tried to put my headphones in, didn't really work. I had a sock on my face, just flat, not like a ski mask or like I'm trying to rob a bank, but just because obviously the nurses have to see what they're doing, and so they have to turn on the light. And so the Tuesday night and then the Wednesday night was not particularly pleasant. A few more scans for me to do. Every day it seemed a little bit more clear that right now I'm just going to be on blood thinners as a precautionary measure, and that they do not know what's going on, what's causing the clotting, which is a very unsatisfying situation to be in, obviously. And you talk to different doctors and they all take your history, and you always have to start from scratch with every person. I had a good relationship with radiographers and the imaging technicians, so I kind of already got an idea of what the outcome of the scans were, but you always have to wait for a doctor to read the report and then to relay the information back to you. And there was a bit of miscommunication in terms of, well, what does my life look like going forward now? And he said, oh, you shouldn't be in a bubble, but you should avoid strenuous exercise. And I was like, okay, well, what's strenuous exercise? Is that doing a 5-minute kilometer, or is that doing a pull-up? It's like, no, you should only be walking. It's like, well, to be quite honest, I didn't say that, but I was thinking in my head, you don't really look like the kind of guy who would ever choose to take the stairs just for the fun of it. And I'm not feeling that I'm really getting good information there. And the more specific my questions were, the clearer it became that they don't really know what to do with you, and this is no fault of the doctor. That's just part of the training, and that's just the way the information is supposed to be relayed back to you. But then when I got to speak to the doctor who discharged me, I could ask some specific questions. He basically said, look, there's no restrictions in terms of exercise or work or anything. You just have to pace yourself and see what you can do. And I was that's what I wanted to hear, and I was happy to get the okay from them as well. And it was just frustrating to have such diverging opinions, and that if you don't know what's going on, if you don't have any education in that field, you're at the mercy of what somebody else tells you. The time in hospital, I didn't watch TV. I didn't really didn't use my phone, so I had a lot of time in my thoughts and really feeling into my body what the heck was going on and what got me into this mess. And there was a lot of moments where my heart opened and I was tearing up and then crying again. And this is when I know, okay, I hit something that's truthful here. And some of those messages were, okay, if I am gonna get out of here alive, it's just no more bullshit. And there's no more bullshit for me. It's just a certain standard on myself in terms of what I have accepted in the last 2 years, where I had accepted circumstances and I have accepted a mental state, and I had accepted disconnecting from myself and not being able to hear my inner voice and not being able to listen to my intuition, and really just brute force trying to run my life on logic and fear at the end of the day. And so, lots of good insights from the hospital, and I got discharged, and the time since I've come out of hospital has been absolutely incredible. And I have no right to feel as good as I'm feeling. The structural integrity of my lungs is probably still that of a rotten tomato. I feel very fragile. You will hear me kind of still catching my breath, and if a sentence is too long, then I can't breathe properly. So I'm physically not cured or anything like that, but I have not felt this good emotionally, spiritually, overall as a person since I was 25. So that's 13 years ago now. It was about the time when I came to Australia, and in that time I was really running my life on raw intuition. I had the ability to really tap in to figure out what is it that I want, what is it that I desire, what are my goals, and then my to-do list was only working through fears and obstacles and apprehensions and the practicality of being able to make that happen. And I really had lost connection to that. And here's where we go towards, how do I deal with this diagnosis and the doctors not knowing what happened, because, I'm doing there's nothing about me that should warrant this kind of health crisis. And healing is not about the absence of symptoms. Healing is really about understanding the messages of the body and understanding the messages of the signs and symptoms if they arise, and then using that as a tool to explore deeper authenticity and to align your life with that truth if an alignment is necessary. So, and for me, this is how I got into this mess, and this is what I wanted to share with you. In the last 2 years, there were a lot of things that happened in my professional and personal life that were failures and setbacks. I, under very bizarre circumstances, lost the practice that I really loved working in, lost a relationship that I really thought was going to be a forever relationship. Then, just really starting to build up a patient base and a new practice. And then, we had this beautiful thing happen to the world, and everything shutting down and me dropping down to 20% or 15% of what it was before. And as much as I love what I do, there's just certain circumstances that have to be clicking into place as well, where, if I'm traveling 3 hours to see 3 patients with 2-hour break in between each patient, that's a very soul-destroying environment. And just because I am so connected to what it is that I do, there was a lot of things that made me disconnect from who I was, and really over the last 2 years shell up more and more to build up a certain wall that I didn't really want other people to participate in my life, that I didn't really have good experience or good mechanisms to share with other people if things were not going great. There's this stoic, rigid German part of me as well that has that, if there's certain things that are not going well in your life, if your business is not going well, if you're not making the money you're supposed to be making, then those are problems that need fixing. And unless those problems are fixed, you're not supposed to enjoy yourself. You're not supposed to be inspired or have fun. And in fact, you should be feeling bad about yourself because you're not living up to a certain standard. So, suck it up and deal with it. And this is kind of the habit that I had fallen into. And I believe sometimes you have to be an adult, and it's not always sunshine and rainbows, and things don't work out. And you have to grit your teeth and get through it. And that's what I was doing. I was really just running my life on grit and really just trying to put the blinders on and get through it and hoping for things to get better. And the problem with that is that in that process, I lost that connection with myself. I lost that truth to myself. I lost that ability to check in with what's authentic and what's not truly me. And there was objectively nothing wrong with my life. I had so much that that I worked for, and I'm not having like the world's craziest lifestyle. There is no sports cars and cocaine and strippers and whatever. It's not me. That's not my thing. So that's not what it's about. But even in the really, really good life that I had, I did not have the ability to practice gratitude and to appreciate what I had because of that stoic, rigid life pattern of no, if there's those problems, you are not supposed to have that connection because that needs fixing. And nothing was fixed in the last 2 years. It just kept getting slowly and progressively worse. And if you do that for long enough, if you disconnect from yourself like that for long enough, your body will try to gently nudge you into the right direction again. And this is what happened. This is how I got sick. It had to be something that is so closely connected to what I'm interested in, financial failure, business failure, relationship failure, all that stuff. It's very uncomfortable, made me feel very exposed, very vulnerable, and very worthless as a man in many ways as well. But the health thing, we knew this is how we're going to get him. And the problem with significant health issues or people getting surgery or something like that is that people get very invasive surgery, weight loss surgery, having ovaries removed, having the thyroid removed or something like that, in the hope that that might cure an underlying condition. But if the habits, the actions, the belief system, the thoughts that contributed to creating the signs and symptoms in the first place are not getting addressed, then over a certain period of time, it's very likely that the same person is going to end up with the same or worse symptoms again, because the underlying issue has not been addressed. So what do I believe the underlying issue is for me? For me, it was really about allowing my life to drift off track, to lose connection with myself, and to lose the ability to enjoy life and practice gratitude. And I've taken put a lot of effort in ever since I walked out of the hospital to really reprioritize that again. And thank you. I got that connection back to my inner voice. I can hear myself again, and I have thoughts as to, this would be fun to do. I would love to experience that. And there were so many moments, I'm encouraged to do a lot of walking at the moment, not doing a lot of sitting around or lying around. And so the night I got out of hospital, I went for the walk down to the park that's just a couple of minutes from my house. And I had to stop halfway through the walk when I was looking out on the water, and I saw the boats and I saw the reflection in the water. And it was such a pristine, clear, starry night. My heart opened and I started crying, and I just looked at it, and I looked at the water, and I just experienced, oh my God, this is so incredibly beautiful. This is just such a gift for me to be able to experience that. And over the last 2 years, every night, I have tried so hard to shield myself and to turn on the TV and to pull the blanket over my head, to not participate in the outside world whatsoever. And the main symptom that I experienced, and I'm still experiencing, is not being able to take a full in-breath. When I was trying to take a full in-breath, my chest was contracting, and it felt that my rib cage was gonna rip off from my lungs. And that part of the breath cycle is called inspiration. And I definitely had an inspiration disorder, in the sense that I did not want to take the outside world in. As much as I loved what I do, I was not inspired by my life or the circumstances or the attitude that I had towards it. And there was no gratitude and appreciation for it whatsoever, like I shared with you a little bit earlier. And my life right now is filled with wonder. I look out the window and I see, oh my God, it's an airplane. That's absolutely incredible. Or, I'm on the bus and I think, wow, I've got this person and they are my personal driver. They are driving me to work, and they're just doing that, because that's what they're choosing to do. And it was really hazy this morning, and I saw some of the buildings driving into Sydney. I was like, wow, isn't that what a beautiful way to start the day. Sometimes the sunlight hits my face and it's like, wow, this just feels amazing. And then I tear up because I realized, wow, I just felt something and it felt amazing. And so this is just an incredible gift. And I'm even, if you're going to ask me, I'm not under the impression that I'm sick. I'm not under the impression that my body is broken. I do not feel like my body has let me down. Quite the opposite. I feel that this is exactly what needed to happen to nudge me back into the right direction. And if this is what it takes for me to maintain that connection with myself, fuck it, I'm going to do it every year. Like, it was worth it. And what my life is going to look like going forward, I don't know if I'm going to make a full physical recovery. I have every reason to believe that I will. But even if I can, never climb the way I climbed before, and there's not going to be any videos of me doing tricks on the campus board for quite a while, I can assure you that. I do want to take some photos just because right now I'm physically very depleted, and I do want to see that contrast as well from, washboard abs to right now just having escaped death very, very narrowly. Just because I want to have transparency around that as well. And there's no shame for me around this experience. I had patients say, oh my God, we thought you would be immune to something like that. This is not the image that I want to portray, because that's not the reality of health and healing. And I just want to welcome more authenticity back into my life, more transparency into my life. And I want to share the story because it's worthwhile to tell it. And I hope that some of it is universal enough for you to be able to relate to it. And as adults, it's very easy for us to get caught up in our responsibilities. There's bills to pay, there's people to look after, there's jobs to do, and to lose connection to gratitude, fun, playfulness, inspiration, inner voice, all those things. And I will advocate for other people to do more of that. You deserve that. I believe I deserved that, but I slipped, and I can see that now. Was what happened to me preventable? I think that's the wrong question to ask, because for me, in my unique situation, the way everything happened, this was meant to happen to me exactly the way it happened. I have no doubt about that. And I do not wish for that to be different. There's no me sitting around here, oh my God, it's so unfair, I'm doing all these things. No, it's none of that. It's just really, I'm under the impression I'm starting to get the message. I'm a slow learner, so it doesn't mean that down the track I'm not going to have something else that's going to happen to me. But I do not believe that we can ultimately prevent that in life anyway. So those were the things that I wanted to share with you today. And I wanted to thank the outpouring of support that I've received from people that work here. I really systematically shelled up, and I stick to myself. And most of the time when I'm here, the door is closed, and I didn't really interact with other people much, just because I didn't have a good way for me to deal with my sense of loneliness and failure and feeling like I'm not living up to the standard that I need to live up to. And it's been very, very humbling and heart-opening to see everybody reach out and to message me and to see how much people care about me, and I didn't know that it was there. So thank you for that. I'd like to thank all the hospital staff as well, who selflessly took care of me, really dedicating themselves to save my life without judgment, without preconceived ideas, just took me in as a stranger and made sure that I came out alive. And I'm more alive than I have felt in a very, very long time, maybe more alive than ever. And I would like to share that story and hope that can lessen some fear in some of you, fear of disease, fear of unforeseeable circumstances. And there's a lot of things that I still want to share. I considered maybe doing a bit of a recovery Instagram as well. I don't know if I'm going to end up doing that, but there just might be some things that I usually would not post anywhere else, just little insights. And I've done other things like, ordered myself a journal which has like a Tree of Life leather cover, and I'm like, that's just my lungs, just like my lungs at the moment, a bit dried up and shriveled up and whatever. And maybe I can use that journal to practice more gratitude like I have in the last few days as well. So I think that's about it. That's what I wanted to share. Long story. Thank you for listening. I hope that you like that raw format and that you were able to relate to some of it and that you found that useful. And yeah, I hope that my story is valuable for you as well. I wish you great health. I wish you that you find a way to enjoy your life that's congruent and authentic for you. I believe that you deserve that. And yeah, I wish that, you know, we can carry that all forward and incorporate that into day-to-day life. Okay, before I start ranting, I think let's cut it here. Thank you for listening. Lots of love and best wishes. I'm Robin. Take care.